Probably the only thing Radio Clatterbridge has in common with other radio stations is the fact that they play requests. Now, requests come into the station in one of three ways. The first method is when a member of the staff visits the ward and collects the request. Secondly, a patient can have a request played by writing to the studio. Thirdly, and the most popular method, is for a patient to phone in his or her request. The station has its own external phone and also an internal phone so that patients can still get through even though they may not have access to a payphone. At the moment, Jan Whitehouse is speaking to one of the patients on the telephone.
Right, so that's Mrs. Ivy Thomas, and she's on ward E1. And the greeting is for all the staff and patients on the ward, and it was Lena Martel, one day at a time. All right, that's fine then. Okay, bye.
Thanks, Jan. Now let's follow this request on its journey from the phone to its broadcast in a programme. The first step is to see if the record's in the library, so it's back to Bill Stringer to see if his system works. Bill.
Thanks, Dave. Oh, Lena. Yes, favourite of long-standing. There we are. 10356. 10356. Oh. There we are.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Request. So we now have the request and the record together. And this now goes into the studio for inclusion in the programme, which is actually on the air. I've now passed the Lena Martel record to Noel Wooden, who's here in the main broadcast studio of Radio Clatterbridge. Within 5 minutes of the patient phoning in the request, the record and the dedication are going out on the air.
Smashing stuff from John Williams. And that's enough to send you asleep. The theme from Cavatina. I hope Ivy Thomas isn't asleep. Hello Ivy, you are in Eastern Ward, and you sent us a record request in via the telephone. Thanks very much for that. And you say please play Lena Martel and One Day at a Time for all the patients and staff in Eastern Ward.
One day at a time, sweet Jesus.
The programme going out at the moment is one of 33 programmes transmitted over a period of 46 hours each week on Radio Clatterbridge. It's presented by Noel Wooden, who's a tool setter, but presents this weekly programme on Radio Clatterbridge. Let's have a word with him. Noel, I wonder whether you could tell me, first of all, how long you've been at Radio Clatterbridge?
Approximately 9 years now.
And how did you first become involved with the station?
Well, I was in fact a patient in Hut 3, had a broken leg, and when I came out, I had a lot of spare time, and so I made inquiries after hearing Radio Clatterbridge on the headphones whilst I was in the ward, and here I am.
Right, now why do you give up your spare time to broadcast on the station? What makes you do it?
Well, I like the whole concept of radio, the fact that you can play pieces of plastic over the air and you're putting together a show of your own, and you can add bits of comedy and you've got your record requests. The whole general medium of radio I'm fascinated with anyway.
And how do you involve the patients in your programme?
Well, of course, we encourage them to telephone record requests in. I also have a couple of quizzes throughout the show, and they're encouraged to phone in with the answers to certain questions I ask them, and stuff like that in general.
I see. Now, how do you ensure that the musical content of the programme is not dictated solely by your own musical tastes? What stops you just playing the sort of records that you like to hear all the time?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, generally we're governed by, or I am governed and given rough guidelines by what comes in from the patients and what they request, and I generally build the music format around those record requests and don't go too heavy in either the new stuff from the charts or classical stuff that maybe they may find too heavy on the old ears.
So fairly middle-of-the-road sort of music format.
Yeah, generally, that's a general guideline.
Yeah. Now, what do you enjoy most about working on the station?
Well, apart from the social life, which is very good, of course, the lads will get together maybe once or twice a week, and we'll thrash out various problems that we have as presenters in the pub. Shouldn't say that, but we do. And as I say, the general concept of being able to produce a programme of my own with nobody restricting me as to what I can play, and that takes me 2 or 3 evenings a week, which is really most enjoyable to do.
Yeah, there's a very pleasant social side as well, so it's not all presenting programmes putting it together. There's the companionship of the fellow presenters.
No, it's not all hard sweat.
Right, okay. Now, have you any ambitions to further your own broadcasting career by, say, working for a BBC or independent local radio station?
Well, no, yes and no. I'm happy as I am. If the opportunity came along, obviously I'd have to consider it. But
Otherwise, you're quite content just to carry on working
Yeah,
at Radio Clatterbridge?
yeah, I'm quite content with the status quo.
Right, well, many thanks for that, Noel. We'll let you get back on with your programme now.
Thanks very much.
Right. And so as Radio Clatterbridge comes to the end of its broadcasts for yet another day, so we end our brief look into the life of the station. A lot of people seem to think of hospital radio as a couple of old record players and a handful of records. I hope that this short film has shown that hospital radio at Clatterbridge is treated very seriously indeed by all its members, and although strictly speaking they are amateurs, they have a very professional studio and a professional attitude to what they do, as well as a great deal of pride in their station. It could be argued, I suppose, that the money spent on Radio Clatterbridge could be better spent on, say, a new kidney machine or a cancer unit. But in answer to these points, I'd like to quote Dr. Griffin, medical advisor to Narbo, who once said, when asked about the value of hospital radio, said that motivated by fear, most people entering hospital for the first time build a psychological wall around themselves, which interferes with communications between them and those caring for them. If you can get a patient's mind off himself for 10 minutes, it's as good a treatment as any. I hope you found this film both enjoyable and interesting. And if you'd like to find out more about hospital radio, I'm sure that the staff here at Clatterbridge will be only too pleased to see you, to show you around the studio complex, and to answer any questions you have. But don't forget, we've only just scratched the surface of the work involved to keep a station like this on the air. If you have just a couple of hours to spare each week, I'm sure that Radio Clatterbridge will be able to make good use of you in some way or other. From me, Dave Williams, goodbye.